Less than a month to go to opening, Dermot, and it's looking good. In fact, it's looking brilliant. Now, this project could never be accused of being hastily brought to market. So, to remind our viewers, some of our younger viewers anyway, can you give us a brief rundown of when you started with the concept of a National Convention Centre for Ireland?
Well, the concept, Eamon, started back about 20 years ago. The government put it out as a kind of national policy for the ERDF programme. We got involved in it in 1997. I was approached in September 1997 through TTC to know if we'd assemble and lead a team to bid for the convention centre at that time. Since then, we've bid for it 3 times. We've won it 3 times.
And finally,
after 13 years, we're now having this chat here in the upper floor of the convention centre.
Well, I've no doubt that some people will, and I'd be one of them, will say that it's almost worth the wait because it is magnificent. Tell us a little bit about the architect, Irish-born, world-famous New York resident Kevin Roche. He really has created one of the most handsome landmark buildings here since the founding of the state. Now, Kevin could well be described as approaching his late youth, so how actively was he involved in the development here?
I like the late youth bit because I think many of us were getting to late youth.
Indeed.
Kevin is 88. He now has cut back to a 5.5-day work week. Kevin has designed everything in this building right down to the doorknobs. And one of the unique things about the building is that he very much gets into the heart and soul of what is the actual purpose and the function of a building first. So he was actually designing this building from the inside out, from an end user perspective, for over a year before we even saw what the exterior might be. Kevin is a very fine architect. He's about 300 landmark buildings around the world. He's been the architect for the Metropolitan Museum in New York for the last 40 years, and many other ones, too numerous to mention.
Well, he really has created a masterpiece here in Dublin. Tell us a little bit about the ownership and management arrangements for the CCD.
The ownership on the 5th of August, which is coming up fairly shortly, we will hand the keys of this building to the government, and it becomes a state building of the same status as the Custom House or the forecourts. And it's the first, as you mentioned earlier, it is the first major public access building built in Dublin since the foundation of the state. Now there's been a little discussion recently as to whether the new criminal courts might come into that that category as well.
Nice building.
It's a very handsome building, but I think you have to have a special purpose to specifically to go there.
Absolutely.
But the ownership is the state. The state has no money in this. It's a PPP. It's a public-private partnership. It's a 380 million project. The developers here provide the site. We provide the construction, the finance, and then on the 5th of August, they hand us back the keys under license with an obligation to run it and take all commercial risk for the next 25 years. However, they do pay the capital cost over those 25 years, provided we hit certain targets, such as international conference delegates, that type of thing.
Sometimes the scale of a building like this is best described or understood by describing some of the stats, and I know you have some incredible stats about seating capacities.
Yeah, the building is very large. It's a 500,000 square feet. It's an 11-storey in ordinary terms building, but it's actually only 5 stories because most of the floors are very big. There's 670 rooms in the building. That includes every storage rooms and cleaners rooms and all the rest of it. But it's huge. It's the atrium where we are right now has this 55-metre glass drum. It's got 470 panes of glass in it. There's no 2 panes of glass the same, so I hope we don't break too many of them. There are 4,000 loose seats in the building. There's an auditorium with over 2,000 seats. There's 51,000 pieces of crockery and 38,000 pieces of cutlery. Your phone is ringing.
Yeah, that's the amateur TV man. It's a bad job, Dermot.
No problem. Then the other thing, I suppose, look, in the end, this is a really fit-for-purpose building.
Sure.
But you don't remember, if you're a conference delegate coming to a convention centre, you don't really remember the building because you assume that's going to work. So we have a huge emphasis on the people. We have about 250 employees. Our whole training programme about employees and about empowering employees is the key part of our pre-opening programme at the moment.
Tremendous. And can we talk a little bit about the business issues? While I know it's not open yet and it's always difficult to sell a product before it actually gets functioning, I know that your sales team have been busy around the world. How has that been going?
That's been going very well. I mean, the first people we hired were international sales, our international sales team. We're told anecdotally that the pipeline of business that the CCD Dublin has is probably the strongest of any convention centre ever opened in the last 10 years anywhere in the world.
That's tremendous.
It's great.
Yeah.
And we're very proud of that and what the team have achieved. The contracted business is around 80 contracted world, European and other events, and about 250 options, specific date options taken on the diary out as far as 2017.
That's fantastic. And of course the good news is that, I mean, while the Convention Centre is located in Dublin, I mean, there's going to be tremendous spin-off business for the rest of the country.
The spin-off, I mean, the purpose in the government getting involved in this in the first place is obviously for economic impact.
Sure.
And spin-off. And one of the things that we have certainly noted is that this has helped to generate a lot of new business that would never have come to Ireland.
Yeah.
Because in a sense Ireland was a market taker rather than a market maker. We
Sure.
didn't have a purpose-built facility. So the spin-off in terms of the economic spin-off is going to be very, very substantial in pre- and post-conference tours, in hotel use obviously in Dublin, and some recent studies by the University of Limerick show that the average spend, excluding airfare, is around 1,500 per delegate.
Which is tremendous.
Which is huge.
Yeah. Well, Dermot, thanks for talking to us. The very best of luck with this venture. I think people will say it was worth the wait because it's a beautiful building, both inside and out, a long overdue facility for Dublin and for Irish tourism, but finally it's arrived.
Thank you very much, Eamon. It's our pleasure.